Bostwick Shellman was born on July 1st, 1849 in Westminster, Maryland, the third of 4 children. Her father, Colonel James Meriwether Shellman, passed away 2 years later. Raised by her mother, Catherine, Mary grew up in a home filled with learning and artistic expression, a spirit she would carry throughout her life. Catherine moved her family of teenagers and young adults to a home now known as the Sherman-Fisher-Shellman House in 1864. As a teenager during the Civil War, Mary lived in a deeply divided Maryland. She watched as her home was briefly occupied by Confederate troops in July 1864, and recalls the divide among children in the town, with some booing and others cheering the occupying soldiers. When Jeb Stuart noticed she was not among those cheering, Mary recalls, he brought her on his horse, called her his little captive, and gave her a kiss. Mary would not remain a child for long during this war. She tended to wounded soldiers and wrote letters on their behalf, witnessing firsthand the cost of battle. That early care and compassion would define her life's mission, service. At just 18 years old, Mary took it upon herself to create a lasting tribute to those who had fought and fallen. On May 30th, 1868, she organized Westminster's first Decoration Day parade, leading rows of schoolchildren dressed in white in placing flowers on Civil War soldiers' graves. This Decoration Day parade would become the Memorial Day parade we now know, and Westminster boasts one of the oldest parades in the nation. But Mary was also clear in her beliefs. While the dead should be mourned, the Confederate cause should not be honored. In her poetry and writing, she argued that Americans could unite in mourning, but should never forget that treason and slavery had no place in the country's future. Her dedication to veterans extended far beyond Decoration Day. She was elected an honorary comrade of Wilson Post No. 1 of the Grand Army of the Republic, as well as the Burns Post No. 13 and the Old Six, Massachusetts, among others, one of the few women to receive such an honor. She spent decades working for Union veterans, embodying the very values of duty and remembrance. Mary's drive and independence broke many barriers for women. Though denied the right to vote for most of her life, she refused to be sidelined. She was an influential political writer, penning campaign songs and newspaper articles, rallying support for causes she believed in. In 1913, she was elected the first president of the Just Government League of Carroll County, advocating for women's suffrage. And when the 19th Amendment was finally ratified in 1920, granting women the right to vote, Mary didn't just celebrate, she acted. She opened her home to teach newly enfranchised women how to vote, ensuring they had the knowledge and confidence to exercise their rights. Yet, like many suffragists of her time, Mary's activism primarily centered on white women. She lived in a world where racial hierarchies persisted, and she did not advocate for black suffrage with the same fervor. Mary had positive relationships with the black women in her community. Paul Rees wrote that Rachel Pye, the servant of a nearby family, was the lifelong devoted friend of MBS. Her relationships with black women, particularly Mary Key, a formerly enslaved woman who remained in the household and whom Mary Shellman and Paul Rees called Mammy, reflect the complexities of race in post-Civil War Maryland. More than anything, Mary Shellman dedicated her life to public service. She worked tirelessly to improve conditions at the county almshouse, transforming it from a place of neglect into a model institution. She played a crucial role in bringing the first telephone system to Carroll County in 1884, even serving as Westminster's first telephone operator and manager. Mary helped organize Boy Scout troop, something she considered among her life's greatest work. She penned a poem in her town newspaper, urging the town to form a Boy Scout troop, and when no one stepped up, she did it herself, despite being a woman. Her deception was revealed one day when the scoutmaster signed the check with Miss Shellman instead of N.B. Shellman, and she wrote to the local scout council, Isn't it an awful thing to be a woman? I can't vote because I'm still classed with idiots, criminals, and insane. But be honest, gentlemen, that after fooling a lot of wise men a whole year into thinking I was a man, I am capable of handling the vote when I get it. In 1889, Mary Shellman volunteered with the Red Cross and responded to one of America's greatest disasters, the Johnstown flood, where she aided victims alongside Clara Barton, receiving a pin from Barton herself. Her passion for education, literature, and history enriched her community. She edited a newspaper, staged local performances, and helped establish one of Westminster's first public libraries. Mary's later years saw her moving to West Virginia in 1921, and eventually to Oklahoma and Texas, where she lived with family but continued to write and correspond with friends back home. Though distance separated her from Westminster, her influence remained woven into the fabric of the town. Through her actions, Mary Shellman proved that one person's dedication can ripple outward, leaving a lasting impact on community, state, and nation. She was a woman who refused to accept limitations, whether in her work for veterans, in the fight for women's rights, or in her belief that service was the true measure of a citizen.